Okay, good morning. This week we're talking about sailing terms, and the second part's going to be on yacht parts. But sailing terms, let's get down to the basics for the beginners. Let's do right and left. So in sailing terms, right we call starboard and left we call port. There's a few old sailors amongst us here. Does anyone got a term or a saying that we can use so remember which is which? What was that, Basil? No red port left in a bottle. That's very good. No left. Port is red in the bottle. So port's red. I should be telling you about that. Port's we also know as red, signified as red, and starboard's green. So if you've ever been out in a boat, you come up a channel, you'll see there's red marks and green marks, port marks, starboard marks. And then the next thing when we're talking about sailing terms is we'll be talking about, when we're talking about tacking the boat, these two boats, the wind's coming from down here, both these boats are tacking, they're on opposite tacks. So how do we define the starboard tack? The starboard tack's when the wind's coming over the right hand side, the starboard side of the boat, as this green one here is. This boat here is on port tack. The wind's coming over the left-hand side of the boat or the port side of the boat. So any questions so far on those two sailing terms? Okay, a couple more sailing terms that we use a lot when we're sailing around and also when we're racing, and that's regarding the wind. Now if the wind's coming down this way, going down the board, see the arrows here, then if we're looking up towards the wind, we call that to windward. And if we're travelling down or looking away from the wind, we're calling that leeward, or leeward some would say. So if we're on a boat, we're tacking on, what tack's that, Lynn? What tack are we on there?
That's port.
Didn't sound like Lynn answering that. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Lynn. We're on port. So if we're tacking on port here, we say that boat's going to windward. It's going towards the wind. And if this boat's running down the course, then we say that boat's going to leeward, away from the wind to leeward. Terms that you should know, while we're talking about terms about sailing, boats, yachting, racing, it's like learning these terms is like learning another language. You learn Japanese so you can speak to Japanese people. You learn these sailing terms so you can speak to other sailors, so you can communicate on the race course. It's important that you study, learn, understand these terminology. Thank you. We're talking about those two terminologies, those two terms we used, windward and leeward. When we come to racing, we also got variations of that. So when we're sailing upwind to a mark, we call it the weather mark. And sometimes we call it the top mark. And likewise with the leeward mark, or when we're sailing to leeward, we call it the leeward mark. We also call it the bottom mark. Top mark, bottom mark, windward mark, leeward mark. And we also call it the downwind mark. So this is terminology you need to know. When we're racing, we'll be talking about weather marks, top marks, windward marks. We'll be talking about leeward marks, bottom marks, and the downwind mark. So put that in your kit of terms, in your yachty language, and just keep practicing using the terms when we're out there practicing sailing out on the course. Today we're talking about yacht parts week 2, and we'll go over some of the key parts on the yacht. I'm going to work from the bow to the stern, or some may say from the front to the back, but the terminology for the front of the boat is the bow, and for the back of the boat it's the stern. Bow, stern. So if we start from the bow, the first sail we're looking at here is the jib, and the jib's got a boom attached to it which controls the shape and the position of the jib. And if we look at the sails, the front of the sail, this front edge here is called the luff, the bottom edge is called the foot, and the rear edge, back edge of the sail, is called the leech. And then for control of the jib we have this line here which is called the jib sheet. This line here is called the topping lift, and it's used to change the shape of the sail here. You can see if we pull on that topping lift like that, you can see the twist in the sail. So this is a rig controller, if you like, or a sail controller setting the shape of the jib. Along the foot here we can make changes, adjustments along the boom like that. That'll give you more depth in your foot. And then if we move to the mainsail, second sail is called the mainsail. Same thing, leading edge of the mainsail is called the luff, bottom edge is called the foot, and the rear edge is called the leech. We control the boom again with a line which we call the main sheet, which is this one here. We control the twist of the jib, the shape of the jib out here on that leech, with the vang, which is here. It's called a vang. So the vang's used to tighten or loosen the leech of the main. So if we tighten the vang, you can see it pulling down, and if we loosen the vang, you can see the leech opening up. So that's another rig setting control. This line here, it's called the backstay. It's primarily used to stop the mast falling forward, but then when we're using it for rig settings, we can use it to put tension in the forestay, which is a wire up here. This is called the forestay. It goes up inside the luff of the jib. You can see the forestay gets connected up here. The backstay, if we pull it on, tensions the luff of the jib and also starts to bend the mast. Maybe you can see that bending the mast. So you can see it's flexing the boat like that. Two other terminologies on the boat that we need to cover are the Cunninghams. Now we've got a main Cunningham and a jib Cunningham, and they provide, I'll show you on the main, they provide you with some tension in the luff, so that if we let the Cunningham off, we get it bowing out like that, and if we pull it on, we get it to tighten up like that. And so we make adjustments on the Cunninghams. The adjustment for the jib Cunningham is up the top of the mast. It's on this adjustment here on this bowsy, and again it tightens or loosens the luff of the jib. So there we have it. There we have our little racing yacht. But if we go back to the basic parts of the boat, and I'll pick the boat up here now, just the basics. This is a keel, stops the boat going sideways. This is a bulb, stops the boat tipping over, counterbalances the wind forces. This is a rudder we use for steering. So rudder, keel, bulb. Parts of the yacht that you should know when we're talking and tuning our boats.